Chronological, a short Dvar Torah for Parashat Ekev. The cashier gave me change. Dawn. I went to the supermarket. There was no ketchup. My wife said to buy yellow cheese. I prayed. I bought red pepper. 10 shekel. The alarm clock rang. Somewhere among this mix of incoherent sentences, you might be able to piece together a story that makes sense. Maybe not a very inspirational story, but it could make sense. The exercise of reading the sentences out of their chronological sequence can help in understanding Ramban's position regarding the famous rule En mukdam ומאוחר בתורה. There is no early or late in the Torah. According to Ramban, there are commentators, Ibn Ezra, who play the there is no early or late card much too liberally and ignore the fact that the Torah takes place within the historical sphere. I want to dwell on this a bit. I have heard the claim the Torah is not a history book countless times, a claim with which I largely agree. The Torah is not a history book in the classical sense, whose purpose it is to only document what happened in the past in an objective way. The Torah has an agenda. It's meant to be preserved. However, the Torah is written as an historical document. It's not written as a collection of instructions like Hammurabi's laws, but as a chronological historical story combining imperatives, promises, warnings, and lists, and much more. That's why Sefer Dvarim is unusual. Compared to the rest of the Torah, which takes place within history, Dvarim is written as a description of history. Moshe reminds Bnei Israel of what happened, or at least what he wants them to remember from what happened. The difference between Dvarim and the rest of the Torah is not gone unnoticed by Chazal. The flip side of En mukdam ומאוחר בתורה is dorshim smuchim, meaning the order of the Torah passages is principled. Why is this the flip side? If the Torah is chronological, there's no need to explain the location of any specific parasha. It's where it is because that's the point in history when it occurred. Only those who claim En mukdam ומאוחר בתורה need to explain why each parasha appears in its place. Why am I mentioning this point now? Because although there are conflicting opinions as to whether smuchin is a thing in the Torah, Rabbi Yehuda, who claims it isn't, agrees that Dvarim is the exception to the rule. Here's an example of the relevance of what I've said so far to our parasha. What glasses should we be wearing when reading the parasha? Not historical ones, because according to chapter 9, Tavera, Masa, Meriva occurred between receiving the first and second tablets, which is inconsistent with what we know from Shmot and Bamidbar. One should look for another connection, and it wouldn't be unreasonable if that connection included the guiding words from the parasha, Shamor, which opens the parasha, Eretz and Elokim, which are repeated a lot, and connect them with the linking word Lema'an for content. In other words, the parasha might be trying to teach us that we must keep Tishmeru, for Leman, us to remain in the land, Eretz, by doing what God, Elokim, says. Not a very surprising message, although one can ask where the mitzvot between man and his fellow man have gone regarding staying in the land. Don't worry, they will return in the future Parashiot, but interestingly, the Torah opens with the mitzvot that the scholars would call rituals, those between man and God, and only then moves on to those they call morality, meaning ben adam lechavero. This distinction is important for the general understanding of the book, but doesn't explain the historical anomalies in our parasha when the variety of historical examples could convey the same message, even if written chronologically. Having discovered a connecting thread, should we continue to look for reasons for historical deviations, or does the historical aspect play no role in the book at all? I'm sorry I'm going to be annoying as usual, and I'm not going to answer this question, mainly because I don't know. I didn't really check. I will add another general point. En mukdam ומאוחר בתורה can also touch on an important theological question. At first glance, chronological writing assumes that time is an axiom. Time is so powerful that it is a basis without which the story could not exist. I believe En mukdam ומאוחר בתורה questions this axiom and shows that the Torah transcends it. After all, the Torah can choose to move between the periods as it wishes. How will those who use the term less freely deal with this claim? The same way they explain miracle sparsity. There's a greater value in natural management of the world than in waving God's power around freely. Just as individual cases, the story of creation, the war on Givon, the prophecy for Chizkiah, are sufficient to show Hashem's mastery over time and reality, so are several individual instances, the most famous in Bamidbar Tet, enough to prove this in the Torah writings. What, you may ask, is the added value and historical manner used by the Torah? I think it best describes history as a process of clarification that the world in general and humanity in particular have to go through on their way to fulfilling their destiny. If so, why did the Tanakh choose to change this in Sefer Dvarim? To show that this historical description is not axiomatic, but optional. Even time has changed in Sefer Dvarim. If you enjoyed this video, please share, subscribe, the regular. I am Jovi Holtz, one who loves time and Tanakh.